This episode of this Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey is brought to you by energy healer Jean Border's personal, powerful transformation program. Know you're leaving money on the table, but can't figure out how to bring it in? Need to double your productivity and profitability? Need an extra push to get things moving in the right direction? Visit www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com/transformation now and apply for a business consultation with Jean. Welcome to the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey, where we take out your emotional baggage and heal your emotional body so you get to enjoy the success you desire and deserve. Prepare to feel a sense of relief and empowerment as we get rid of the baggage you've been carrying that's held up your business success up until now. Be sure to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, get comfortable, and prepare to take off.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Border, your host for the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey. And I have another special guest. This is Magdalena Raj, and I am so excited to talk with you today.
Thrilled to be here.
So tell me a little bit about you. Let's talk to our listeners about you and your journey of how you got into this space.
Well, it's a little bit of an interesting journey. I say sometimes I'm a slow learner. So I have an over 20-year corporate journey and experience there that I was in various industries and then various lines of business. And over the course of it, I did a lot of large, complex projects and products to take to the market and worked across different cultures and also different levels and organizations. But what I found, the thing that really jazzed me, aside from doing that, was with the people. And that's the place where you see how interactions come together when you try to build consensus and you try to work on it. But you'd also see where bumps would come in the road. And the bump was sometimes not caused by what was happening in the room in that moment. It was something else. And I had my own part of my journey where it hit me too. And I had to kind of rebuild from everything. I was at a point where I lost almost everything, I should say. Marriage, company went to bankruptcy, that I was working for a large scale company. Our personal finances were not attended to. So it was like, no husband, no savings, no job, no income. Oh, look, there's no 401k, there's no stock, there's no severance, and there's no healthcare. And like, where do you go from there? So you start to rebuild. And I knew I was older. I had a 2-year-old. That was the one special thing out of it all. And she needed help. Right? Her world had crashed, right? So I looked at it and I said, my trajectory has to be higher because my runway's shorter. So you pull out your toolkit and you go to work. So I knew my what. I had to rebuild. And I knew my why. That little darling 2-year-old, right? But it was the how that really was the cruncher. And I see how that how, when you navigate it, makes all the difference. And it doesn't matter whether you're in corporate. It doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or you have employees that you're working for. It's how you navigate that how is the difference between when you get to your goals, what's there along with you. Because it can be the difference between who's there with you, how you are actually there with you, your health, your wealth, and actually, kind of your mindset and how you feel about yourself. So when I went through the work in the corporate space and I said, I want to be the healing side of this. I want to step back into the people and work with folks on being the person I wish I had. Right? How do I renew and how do I look at things? And that's what kind of led me on this journey and why I'm so passionate about what are the changes and the things that you can do. And what lets you live your extraordinary life, not in the future, but right now. Because by living that is what lets you unleash all of your skills and everything else to get you the income and the impact and the influence you want. That's what brought me here.
So what does your business focus on?
I work a lot with high achievers. I'm a high impact coach. And I work with a lot of stressed high achievers. And they could be, usually it's women, and it could be in the professional or entrepreneurial space. And what happens when I went through everything, I didn't realize I had done the model of a high achiever. I never thought of myself as that. Okay, I wasn't running the country. I wasn't running the company. So, I'm just a normal striver. But there's an actual mindset that goes along with that where you just keep going. And life things come in and they will happen. Especially as entrepreneurs, you have surprises coming at you. And you can pretty quickly go from spinning all the plates to spinning your wheels. So we find the right things. So look at the high impact thing that's going to bring value to your life, your entire life. And that's why I say, forget about work-life balance, because it's craziness. You have a whole life. You're a whole person. Let's look at all of that and then find the things that actually give you the best life possible. So you're also achieving your goals.
So when you first, the whole work-life balance, I laughed when you said that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't want to bring my personal views into it, but it is my podcast and I can
go there
too, Yeah, in my business career, I once worked 2 months without a day off, and my reward for that was a $7 plaque. So, but in the long run, it got me promotions, right? And it got me noticed, and people appreciated my work ethic. So in the long run, even though the only visible sign was that $7 plaque, in the long run, it helped create the career that I enjoyed, right? Mm-hmm. It helped create my reputation. But work-life balance, there was no such thing.
No, and what's so funny when you say it as work-life balance, or people say it that way, right? It's like there's this or that, and you see this teeter-totter. And I think of it, it's so two-dimensional, yet we're three-dimensional people. It's like, what's your 360 view with it? And you're so right about, you make the investment, right, for the bigger goal. You're investing. The danger part comes when the tipping point's reached. Because just like anything else that you invest in, if you run out of cash, you're going to have to get a loan from the bank. And if you're not careful, you wind up in the place where you borrow on your tomorrow. And I'm on the other side, so I can actually look back now and go, I watched people who were cracking at what they were doing really good, but then you kind of see the breakouts, the breakdowns that you start to happen, whether it's their family, whether it's them personally, whether it's their health, or maybe it's the workmate that doesn't actually come in the next day and they're never coming back. So there's a lot of those pieces in there, but there's ways we can do it that you don't treat yourself like this infinitely renewable natural resource, because we kind of know that those don't exist, right? You wind up going towards extinction. And at that time, I didn't understand what you talk about a lot, I think, which is the energy space. I didn't understand some of those things. And so work ethic was great, but it was harder than it needed to be.
So when someone comes to you, what's the first thing you look at when you're trying to help them?
Well, if they give you permission, I'll take a look and kind of maybe lean into their energy space, because I kind of blend the business acumen with the coaching skills with some energy work and then some neuroscience. The first thing that we'll do is we kind of take a look at, I give them 12 dimensions of life. And I go, tell me where you think you are in this. What hits you when you look at this? And it's surprising when they start to look and realize where the gaps sit. And it's like sometimes you forget. You forget those other parts of yourself. You forget those interactions. The other thing I'll say is, what I usually do is that when I give away some free gifts, I'll talk about, take a look at your show up meter. Because the quickest test is, how are you showing up? Are you showing up as you want to? Are you showing up as your best self in situations? Are you able to? And when you have a lot going on, sometimes it's hard to do that. And then it compromises the results you want in the longer term, because we get so focused in society, right, on the immediate and the short term. But like you said, you make the investment for the long term. So how are you showing up? What's the quickest test?
When you work with people, how long do you work with them?
Usually I work with them for about 6 months. Some of them re-up. And that's what we focus on during that period of time, is making the shift so that their income can increase, but they also have deeper relationships and their health is revitalized because all is in how you come in.
So what I'm hearing is you do like a life balance wheel to see where they're out of balance and focus on those. Is that?
Oh, so if you're talking about my methods,
Uh-huh.
we go through a life balance where we look at that. There's three areas. I say there's three keys to it. And one is, do you have a vibrant core? What's your core? Your core, the second one you're going to find a little interesting is your culture. And the third is alignment. So when your core is like, who are you? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to be seen as you do it? We'll work through your values. We take a look at that because like a lot of times as you get busy, you move along the path. You kind of diverge from the person you think you are. And the person that other people see may be something different. So you actually can have like three different views. And then there's the future view you're going towards, right? And we don't stop to re-anchor with all the little compromises we make along the way, but we're still operating, thinking we're over here. So we kind of get really clear on that. And the next thing is your culture. And when I say culture, right, it's usually the customs and habits and sometimes the food and the things of a population or a group. But what is your culture? You may have a culture of achievement. Do you have an accomplishment? Do you have a culture of innovation? Do you have a culture of celebration? A lot of high achievers don't celebrate until the big thing. Why? Because they have to be worthy of the celebration. That's not worthy of celebration. But do you have a culture of failure? Do you support that? Or even with your kids, like, what does failure bring you? It's not that. And maybe there's consequence, but how do you learn and how do you go forward that? Do you have a culture of exploration? Are you open? Because the more stressed we get, but the busier we get, the blinders go on to single focus. And sometimes when you single focus, you can't see opportunity and possibility the same way. And then the last piece is kind of the alignment. How do you make that dynamic? How do you look at that operating model you have and make it work for you? So much of what we do is autopilot. So how do you retrain them? How do you play with the neuroscience and let it work for you?
How do you work with the neuroscience and make it work for you?
Well, there's different, just like the exercises you do for your body or that you should be doing here and there to get exercise. There are tools and there are techniques now that they have that actually, they're not hugely invasive in the day, but you can build kind of that muscle, if you want to think of it as mental fitness or mental muscle. So you can build that where you start to trade out perhaps some of those behaviors you have, some of those things that you do, because a habit is just a repeated behavior, right? So what could you do differently? How can you, and it's always about being expansive. How do you actually look at it in a different way? When we're in a situation, it's very easy to go like this. High stakes situations, we close in. So when you practice, then you have that accessible to you. You also manage your energy and you work on that and you think about that. It's like, how do you kind of sit into who you are? How do you sit into feeling that space? And when you get in touch with it. And for me, I realized when I first started doing it, I realized that, I was cut off. It was all up here, sitting in my head. And the rest of me, it kind of like, I don't know where it was, but it wasn't always connected. And that's one of the hugest things. And you probably have seen that in your work too.
Yeah, all the time. I want to go back to the first part of your process because that fascinates me.
Sure.
And I'm trying to, anytime I talk to people, I'm trying to apply what they say onto me, pull it,
Sure.
how would I do it? So you were talking about viewing yourself differently and how others see you as a different aspect of you. Talk to me more about that because that was really cool. I really enjoyed that part.
So what, I think once we hit adulthood and maybe you get past your 20s into your 30s, somewhere in there, you kind of get a view of yourself. You kind of operate thinking, well, I know you don't think about what are my values all the time anymore. It's just kind of instilled in you. And that's kind of where I talk about the autopilot, where you get going and you just, that's locked. I don't have to worry about them. But what you find is over time, you might make a little shift here. It's what I call drift. So you start to make a little shift, and maybe you don't quite take the time to talk to somebody anymore. Maybe you don't really connect in the same way anymore. You think you are, but you're not. Maybe your manner or your style changes in some way. Maybe you start to doubt yourself a little bit. Maybe as you start moving along, your business increases and you start to grow and you go, well, I don't know, am I a little nervous about this? I'm excited about this. But as those things are going, we don't often recalibrate it with who we are. So you can kind of get a little disconnected with it. And then when you do that, you tend to bounce a bit. So if you're bouncy because maybe you're having doubts about something, or you're wondering, can you scale to that next level? Or you're totally confident you can, and that's great. But in that, you don't see your blind spots. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of the times with coaching is someone helps you with those blind spots. And what happens is you're getting reactions. You're getting reactions to all the roles you play. And that's one of the things I do go through with my clients is all the different roles you play on any given day. It's like you can see a keynote speaker and you go, oh, look how polished that person is and how wonderful they are, right? And then you find out, 2 drinks in, maybe later, that speaker has a 4-year-old child who has a great future in fluid dynamics because they're really big on moving objects in bowls of water, right? So 11 o'clock the night before, they were a plumber.
Oh,
right. And we do that. We focus in and we work in the land of roles. So we start to be defined by our roles. When you meet someone somewhere along the way, in the first couple of minutes, you're going to say, so what do you do? Right? And you may say, I'm a podcaster. I'm a coach. I'm a doctor. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. But it's not true. They ask what you do. Mm-hmm. Tell them what you are. And that R is just the title of your main role. So the thing about roles, and there's like 5 different types, is they come with baggage. And that baggage is in the form of expectation. And the expectations are not just yours of it. Even if you're a perfectionist, it's other people's. And that brings an energy into it, that brings a feeling from those other people. And what it does to you is it impacts your time. It impacts your energy. It impacts your emotions. And when you put that together, you start carrying that. You carry differently. So the who you think you are is the person who's kind of become the person who's walking with all these myriad of roles they're carrying around with them.
And some of us are very aware that we perform different roles.
Mm-hmm.
And we carry different personalities into the roles.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us aren't aware at all.
Yes, but you're absolutely right. I mean, think about, we carry different parts of ourselves into the roles, and our bodies know it too, right? If you are talking on a podcast and you're standing in the grocery store and maybe you're looking through your phone, right? Your posture's different, your manner's different, your style is more relaxed, right? I joke about when you're in the bar and you see the hottie, way back, whole different mannerism than if you were presenting to a board of directors or you're presenting to a large client group. So we know it and we go by this is your role and that's your role, but we kind of accept it in a large chunk. And by doing that, that's a big impact because of the impact on the emotions and the energy, but it's also on the time. And that's one of the places we start to peel out time. And I do a workshop on that. So let's take a look at your roles because they're different. So example, and I don't know if you're a mom or not, but if you take the role of mother, somebody's interpretation of mother may be very different than their spouses. They think it's the same. It's different than their mothers. It's different than their mother-in-laws. And your kids are very helpful in telling you how it's different because Bobby's dad lets him do this and Susie's mom lets them do that, right? They tell you. But interestingly, it's your boss and it's your peers because they don't think you're doing the role of mother correctly and it impacts them. They feel they have they can weigh in some ways. So just in that, and it's really those major roles we don't break out that we look at to say, what should be included? Should you be going to your son's apartment when he's 28 and doing his laundry? Or do you have your 10-year-old doing it, right? All of that's mother, but it's very different. And that's where we open to opportunities. That's when I work with clients is, let's take a look at that and peel that on. whose definition are you sitting in, and how's that impacting you?
And just in general, whose definition are you sitting in?
Mm-hmm.
That's very powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because so many of our beliefs so many of our actions are not even based on what we really want. It's what we think somebody wants us to be or do or have.
Mm-hmm. Or what we heard about, or what we grew up with, or what we acquired over time. And it's funny because you have major roles and minor roles, but there's also the stick-on roles, the ones where you go to help somebody and it should have been a one and done, and all of a sudden it becomes your thing. And people go, well, that's your role. And you're like, how'd I get that, right? And there's the stealth roles, sometimes called the saboteurs, the ones that hide, right? The good one, the smart one, the helpful one. Horrible things like the loser, the idiot, all these terms that people carry in their head. Those roles come up and they're stealthy and you don't even know they're there, and they're influencing what's going on. So all of that plays into the roles.
Stealth roles is where we're going to have to leave this conversation. Okay. But if you want to have more discussions on stealth roles or anything else you've heard in this episode, please get in touch with Magdalena. All her information will be below. Just click on the link. It'll take you straight to her. I'm sure she'd be happy to have a conversation. And there will also be a free gift link down at the bottom as well. So Magdalena, thank you so much for being here. There was so much more I'd like to discuss with you, but we're out of time. So
thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. And it was just wonderful to be here, Jean. You have a great day.
Oh, same to you. And for our listeners, this is Jean Border, your host with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey, where we take out your emotional baggage and heal your emotional body so you get to enjoy the success you desire and deserve. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.